What is up, bros? Me Josh here. In today's video, we are going over the newest version of the Tier 9 French battleship, the Jean Bart, which is currently still work in progress, and stats are subject to change before this goes live. So a few changes have hit this ship in this current version that we are getting to test a little bit early, and they are this. One that's going to hit its survivability, one that's going to hit its offensive power, and then one that gets it to be a little bit better of or kind of on par with the French battleships. First of all, its repair party was nerfed from 40 seconds to 60 seconds to 120 for the standard, and then the improved from 40 to 80. So that's been kind of doubled. We saw something like this, and it happened to the Conqueror. And what it basically does is, in between each of the fires and everything, your repairs are going to be a longer duration. So that is going to affect your survivability throughout the game, not making it so you can tank as much and repair as much damage as possible. The second thing that is going to be hit is what makes this ship unique is the reload booster. As you can see, the Y consumable down below. This is the first battleship to get this consumable, and basically what it does is it cuts your reload in half and basically lets you pump out 3 salvos extremely quickly throughout the 30 seconds that it's up. And this was nerfed in the fact that the cooldown is now doubled from 120 seconds to 160 seconds. Well, not quite doubled, but added some more time to it, or the improved version of 80 seconds to 120 seconds. So this has been nerfed, adding 40 seconds to it. Still extremely powerful of a consumable, one of the strongest consumables for all of the for the battleships, in my opinion, and it makes it so this ship can still do a massive amount of damage, but still this ship is a tier 8 body in a tier 9 matchmaking. So it's still going to take a lot of damage, and you're still going to be able to see, though, what it can pump out. This is a really good game. The damage is pretty good in this game, but it's not anything that's insane that this thing still has the potential to put out. But this kind of just shows the strengths and weaknesses still with this ship. And I wanted to kind of show you guys everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. Now, one of the buffs it did get was to get its matchmaking kind of, or to get its secondaries matched to where like the all stays currently is, and it was increased from the standard of 5 kilometers up till 7. So what's this going to do? It's going to give you that ability to then put a lot of secondary damage out there. We spec this a little bit more, which we'll see a little bit late game, which probably wasn't the best idea, but we were spec'd out a little bit more of the survivability towards our secondary and AA modules to keep that a little bit more, because this ship does have still an insane AA rating. You'll just be shredding planes from a long range, and we spec this a little bit more towards secondaries. I don't think that'll probably be the way to go, since what this is going to do, and it's making a unique playstyle still, even with the nerfed slash buffed, whatever you want to kind of call it, playstyle. It's going to make this quote-unquote flanking battleship, and as you know, French stuff, it's extremely fast, speed boost, and what this is going to do is it's going to let you get into a situation where you can be relatively stealthy for a tier 9 battleship. 12.3 kilometer range, or 12.3 kilometer detection. You can get around the fleet and then get into a spot where you can then use that reload booster. And as you can see, we just got both of our main turrets knocked out there. A little bit of a bummer. But you can get into a position where you can really start punishing broadsides, because that main battery reload booster, not only is it amazingly fun, but it's still amazingly strong. So speccing something into secondaries, I don't think is probably the best idea with this ship still, even though it does have the range, but you will see them still be pretty successful when I do get in range, and pretty effective. Because in the end, you're still just going to want to be based around your main batteries, which is where most of your damage is going to come from. And on top of that, just having the ability to just do a massive amount of damage with your main turrets, and then just being able to really just kind of push in. But you're not a tanking ship by any means, which is something you're going to have to be very careful with. So as you can see right here, well over 10 kilometers, you will be getting that AA range, or that secondary range now, and you'll be extremely effective against other ships. But you're not going to be really like a Missouri, like bow tanking that much. You'll see a little bit later when some turrets get knocked out again, but we don't have that main battery armament for the protection on main turrets getting knocked down and whatnot. So in the future, I will switch to that. So we'll probably be doing some more games live while this is still work in progress. If you want to check out the Twitch stream, I'll put a link down below as always, and you can see a little bit more with this ship. It's still a lot of fun, and I still think maybe be a bit too strong. This is such a strong consumable. We're seeing it on the Le Terrible, Terrible, however you want to say it, the currently tier 8 work in progress French destroyer. where the main battery reload has the potential of being a game-changing consumable, and very, very, very effective. As you can see right there, it's a nice little bit of damage. And you can also see we'll start pecking down some planes throughout this game as well, being a good A platform. I enjoy the ability to kind of be this pseudo solo warrior in a way. I think it's a fun playstyle, and I think it's pretty dang unique. And I like the ability that it has to just kind of hold down an entire flank and just being a monster terror. So I find that kind of stuff fun. I find it to be unique, and I find it to be kind of outside the normal meta. I like things that are like they kind of set out to be their own play style, not kind of just following the meta. And that's one of the things I even liked in my review for the Tier 8 Destroyer, the Terrible, that it is still a unique ship. It's not the strongest, and but it still finds its little niche. And I think this flanking battleship, this solo warrior battleship, is actually something that's very cool. But with this offensive powerhouse, this is really kind of what a glass cannon battleship is. And what I mean by that is you have the potential to just doing massive, massive, massive amounts of damage with that consumable, and just the ability to just wreck cruisers, wreck battleships, destroy destroyers. But it's really tough that you have kind of not the best armor for even Tier 9 battleships. You're technically probably one of the lightly armored battleships at Tier 9, but still you have it's kind of do lots of damage, but you can also take lots of damage. So getting into a position where you can do that, but still it's a little dangerous getting into something. I think we even take a weird citadel right here, and I think it's in the salvo. No, it must be one of the little later salvos. So we take a really, really weird salvo. And it's just like, really, that was a citadel? That's kind of weird. We got a weird plunging fire against us. But anytime you can kind of put the pressure on a team, which I think is where the secondaries really, really kind of thrive, is you'll get into a position where you're starting to flank and running kind of solo, and teams are going to have to rotate ships over, or you'll just have broadsides. And I think that's where those secondaries are really going to shine, in the ability of really kind of forcing those, because the closer you get to them when they're not paying attention to you, you are really going to be putting just so much pressure on them, not only with the static damage of the secondaries, but also with that reload booster and those main batteries, as well as being able to, you know, take minimal damage because you can keep bow in, and then with just having a straight up good reload and that booster, of course. I keep saying that. It's just so good. I still think potentially this damage, I find this reload consumable, now that's on a destroyer that we're currently showing work in progress. It's on the battleship here. I think this might be the Citadel. Yeah, so a random Citadel right there. That was a bit of a bummer. But it does kind of just show that although this thing is amazing for pumping out damage, it is definitely a very, I would call it glass cannon. So being able to do a ton of damage, but also taking a ton of damage. If something is giving you you're giving something the broadside, you can really get into a lot of trouble and trading a lot of health for it, and not having like a slower repair. Especially for other stuff, you definitely have the potential of getting picked on. That's why I think it's kind of a unique play style on the side. Instead of being like a main fleet battleship like you would see like a Musashi at Tier 9, or an Iowa at Tier 9, or even I guess an Izumo at Tier 9. This is going to be a very fun, different play style, and I think this Alsace only shoots at me almost this entire game, which is a bit of a bummer. There were positions where I kind of wish I was, and this Missouri got just a tad in the way right here, so we're giving that guy a bit of a broadside, but it's all right. But we're going to set up in a nice little spot, set up a nice little battery, and kind of protect ourselves from the side, and use kind of all the tools in the book that we have to pump out a ton of damage when it comes to this. And because we're pretty low on life, and if we post up into a good spot, not only can we knock down a bunch of planes, get some secondary hits, as you can see they're still going crazy, but as I was saying, yeah, that guy got an extremely lucky shot. But this is the spot where if things aren't focusing you, you can really put a lot of damage. And it's nice having these little extra secondaries with the change to this ship. Now, again, this ship is not finalized. I think there's a lot of upside to this ship with just saying, okay, I'm a little fragile and maybe a little less survivability. The original version that we got to see a little while ago was pretty dang strong. Easily the strongest Tier 9 battleship, I think, in the game. And with just having that consumable is just so good and so punishing. And the reload on it was so quick, and I'm glad that Wargaming kind of took that away, because it felt like, all right, you catch something broadside and you punish them. I mean, a battleship should catch anything. I mean, it should punish anything broadside, right? That's just what it should do. But just having that ability to just completely wipe something I think it was every 60 seconds or something like that. I mean, in a 20-minute game, just getting an impactful hit. I like the ability of this ship, and as you can see, we're getting into a really good spot right here. What I try to do this is really good for placement if you're trying to be an effective kind of AA platform, especially for a bigger ship. Get into a spot, if you have it. There aren't that many spots like this in all of warships, but get into a spot where it's tough for them to drop on both sides of you. And we always kind of have a joke on the stream that we try to make the CB drop on land, especially, of course, obviously it doesn't work for dive bombers, but for torp bombers, they'll still try to drop on you or try to get an unfavorable angle, and if you can do a lot of damage to their planes where they have to kind of get into a situation where they can get it, or they'll just throw all of their planes right onto the land. Unluckily right there, we're trying to defend ourselves, but again, you can see we're shredding tier 8 planes like it's nothing, and even we've lost some AA, I think, armaments at this time, and we aren't even fully spec'd into AA. I think we just have the the module, and I think we have AFT. So we don't have BFT, we don't have anything like that, no manual AA, but you know, shredding down basically a whole strike force of Lexington planes. No big deal. I think we added like 18 that run, so we got 18 of the of whatever the 20-some planes it was. So not too bad. What was like 20 or 20, I think. But when you can get into a spot right here, like even though we're tanking the hood, we're tanking the Alsace is shooting at us. The Scharnhorst, luckily, didn't try to go for torps, but we would have had him anyway. But you can see that just being that passive damage and the main battery and everything on this ship, you can just do so much damage. And a nice salvo right there. And this is where, like, I would have already had the next reload consumable up right here. Well, almost in about 15 more seconds. And I just think it was too quick. And I like that this ship has not only the unique playstyle, but it does have a game-changing consumable and a game-changing potential of just being like a playmaker, a straight-up playmaker. What I mean by that is that reload consumable could swing the ship, swing everything. You know, you could get a killing blow on one ship, and then you could put a massive salvo into something else because it's still giving you a broadside. But right there, we just lost the main turret. Again, that's the downside of having a 2-turret in the front and that being your main armament. So we lost it, but with that reload, we can do a little bit more damage. But remember, again, that's what I was talking about. We didn't have the main armament module, so. But still, we still have the 1 turret, so 4 shells going out at a time, and we do have the reload consumable coming up. I think time-wise, I think this is okay with the new ability, but I still think this might be too strong of a ship. It's an extremely good ship, and yes, it's not as tanky as a couple of other ships, but I just think its ability to its damage output and stuff like that, I think is extremely strong. And I want this ship to be good because it's very fun, but I don't want it to be overpowered because then you have a whole problem with that, right? But anything with tier 9, there's some really competitive battleships, and we're not quite sure how this is still going to be sold. But again, this ship is so much fun. But you can see right here, you know, there are some downsides still to the ship. It's not the tankiest thing. It's not the, you know, having 2 armament in the front with the ability of potentially losing them is a bit of a downside. You know, you're taking out 1 gun, then you're kind of screwed. And the Alsace still being like its counterpart. This is kind of like a family feud right here, but I think he does eventually get me right here. Who have what, 12 shells on me, and there's not much I can really do. And of course we get some. We've had decent dispersion all game, and I think he's gonna end up getting us right here. But now we're getting this just terrible dispersion right at the end. But we'll put some pressure on him. Use those new secondaries. So again, just a quick recap. The revivability was, or the survivability was weakened a little bit on this ship. I was trying to actually get the RAM, but we don't get it. But the repair was extended. That was basically doubled from 60 seconds to 120, so added 4 seconds on the premium version, and then added another 40 seconds onto the main battery reload. So a nerf to its damage potential. It's I guess game making, game play, whatever you want to call it, play making potential. A bit of a nerf to that, a nerf to its survivability, but a buff to its secondary. So it's making it just a really good kind of all around ship, but still it has that ability to just be a fun ship overall. Seattle gonna take them down right there. Rip firing some AP. That's what I'm talking about. And we go on to win this game. So really, still amazing. AA's out of this world. Still shredding ships. I mean, really, if you spec this thing out, you're basically a no-fly zone. Good luck to any AP bombs or anything like getting through if you really spec into this AA wise. And if you do spec into this AA wise and just take kind of the standard secondary build or standard secondaries kind of for the ship, you can just you won't have to really worry about anything. You're agile, so you can kind of dodge a lot of torps. You can shoot down all the planes that are coming for you. You can absolutely wreck people's broadsides with that consumable, and it could be a really fun ship. Or you can, you know, stick with the group and knock down a ton of planes, just do a ton of damage anyway. But anyways, guys, this is the rest of the game, so it's just going to go for a little bit longer as they finally kill the last two guys. But overall, a really fun ship still. I think potentially still too strong. You know, maybe a small change to still the reload. You know, maybe make it a little bit longer, because although it can be such a massive damage output on this ship, you have to kind of really be careful with having too many game changing plays happen for one ship, and this one definitely does have that. It has kind of a slam dunk kind of situation that can happen multiple times in a game. So shredding through a cruiser that's potentially giving up a broadside with, you know, having the battleship like this with sending out 8 shells every, you know, 12 seconds or something like that, that's pretty strong. So maybe still tweaking that back a little bit, but overall I think she's in a much better spot compared to where she was. She was extremely strong in the first version we got, and this is now the second version, so we'll see what they change. But still good credit earnings, good damage. Secondaries have been buffed, so those are still rocking. AA is still amazing, still a really fun ship, and if this goes out like this, you guys I'm sure will enjoy it at tier 9, and if it does get tweaked, we'll look forward to the next video. But anyways, guys, remember, it's still work in progress, so things are subject to change. But anyways, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.